Welcome, everyone. We'll call to order the July 24th Waste Management District Board meeting. First order of business is the approval of minutes. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Wait, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Thank you.
Do we have a motion? Any discussion, distractions?
Are you logged in on both your phone and computer?
No.
Okay. Sometimes that creates an echo, but I think it's usually when we start presenting something. The only correction that I saw, and I forwarded this to Pete, was the location, just marking that down as virtually over WebEx instead of the Merriweather location. And then there was just a small typo, but I think Pete said that he was correcting that.
Yes, I did. So if we can just approve as amended, that'd be great.
Okay.
Are there any other discussions, questions, additions, deletions? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the last board meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Okay, those minutes are approved. Thank you all. No correspondence to the board this evening. Action items, Pete.
We had the budget report in there, Bob. I think we missed the budget report.
Oh, well. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I looked down too quick. Sorry. Budget report.
Okay, so we have two budgets, the final one for FY24 and the new budget that's come out. Keep in mind that this FY24 budget is not closed, so there's still some potential changes that will take place. Good thing is we had $2 million in total revenue this year between license fees and the sale of recyclables, which is great. That's well above where we thought that we would be. We're, I think, running pretty close to that 140% of anticipated budget. So that's great. Total expenses, we were at $1,415,000. I believe that is probably pretty close to where we thought that we would be when you pulled out the rollover amount. So we will find out where we ended up, hopefully by the next board meeting, to see what that new rollover amount is going to be. Any expenses that we had since our last meeting, these are listed on the screen right now. And of course, the Huntington Bank, that is for the front load truck. Field trip is for our campaign on anti-litter. Municipal media. Karen, what is that one? I can't call that one. What's that one for?
It's Recycle Coach.
Oh,
And it's
Recycle
just
Coach.
annual.
Yeah. And then two for the Veolia Environmental for our household hazardous materials drop-off site out on Grade Lane. All of these expenses are approved already through either contract or previous votes by the board. So there's no need for any votes for anything over 5,000. Any details to these things are in your board packets. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. So any questions on the 24 budget? Nope. Okay, so going on to 25. This is really kind of the budget as it's going to be for this coming up year. It does not have the rollover amount in there, so you can see it as it originally is. One thing I will say is that the new budgeting system that we're using will allow us to automatically expand things. We don't have to stick so much with budget categories. It will automatically create that new budget category for us. So as time goes on, you'll see more of these items to be put out there. So really, there's no big surprises here on this budget. It will only improve with time. Any questions on the new budget? That concludes the budget.
Okay, thank you. Getting back to where I was before, no correspondence to the board and action items for this evening.
This is going to be for approval to pay for registration fees for advisory committee and board members for the upcoming resource recycling conference that we're lucky enough to have in Louisville. I'll let Karen talk a little bit. I think, Karen, you went to this one last year, did you not?
We didn't attend last year. That was in Orlando and we didn't go. We went the year before when it was in Austin. And I've been to it, I think 3 other years before that. But no, we missed it last year.
So this is a great conference, and we are lucky to have this one in Louisville. We put up it's $625 per person, which I think is a little bit steep, and we will probably and hopefully get a few complimentary because we're the host city, but we don't know that yet. So what we did was we put together a potential of all the advisory committee, board members, and staff of the Waste Management District to come up with a number of $16,250. Because we were up over that 5,000 mark, I felt that it was important to let the board know that this is the potential here and gain approval. I do not think that we'll spend anywhere close to $16,000 on this because a lot of people will not be able to attend. It will be during the day. A lot of people have jobs. But what I would say is if you have the opportunity to attend, this is a great conference to go to. Karen, what were some of the classes? Do you remember? I think you may have sent it to
Yeah.
me.
I did use one of them using digital data to guide program decisions, steps to power behavior change in your community. What's the prognosis for recycling markets? The economic and climate benefits of local recycling. U.S. Plastics Pact workshop, the future of reuse. Those are just a few examples of presentations that were on last year's agenda. They just don't have this year's ready yet.
Yep, and that's going to be November 13th through 15th.
Where are they holding it here? Just out of curiosity.
It's a good question. I don't
I'm
think we
not
know
sure.
that either.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not sure. I do have a contact, Marissa Segundo, that I actually met at my first conference in St. Louis when I was still pretty new. And she has worked, I guess she worked for Resource Recycling Services that helps put this on. But anyway, she typically presents. And this year, we're already collaborating to have a presentation that will, it's not ready yet, of course, but we're trying to take things that we're doing in Louisville and correlating correlating data with Recycle Coach data to kind of show that Recycle Coach is useful and that our programs help promote that, and that helps promote our program. So, anyway, it's very much preliminary so far, but I am working with her, and she's really great. She, I've presented with her at another conference before, and I see that Corinne just put in the chat that it's at the Louisville Marriott downtown.
Yes.
So, yeah, it should be really good. I'm excited.
So if anybody's interested, obviously let me know so that we can go ahead and get this started. If there aren't any questions, then I would ask the board to approve up to $16,250 with the knowledge that we're probably not going to spend that much.
I'd move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and this is an up to not exceed to 16,250, correct?
That's correct.
Correct, yes.
Are there any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, just would there be any prerequisites for attending? You know, of course, we want to make sure that we get value for this, for the registration cost. So would there be any prerequisites for prospective attendees? Like, is something that we need to visit or read or something like that?
I don't think so. Maybe we wouldn't know that until the actual agenda comes out. You know, so that, you know, it may be listed in the agenda item that, you know, if you want to look at this first, or you have a topic that you want to do, there's no way possible for a person to see every one of the sessions. So you would pick out the sessions that you want, maybe do a little bit of research on it. They do give you a fair bit of information prior to the sessions and being able to sign up. So we're still early, but we wanted to get it started. But, you know, as far as anything like that comes up, we can surely let you guys know.
Okay.
I put a link to the schedule in the chat, and then I'm also putting a link to the 2023 detailed schedule there, just so you can get an idea of what kinds of discussions and presentations there will be.
Perfect.
Thanks, Andy.
And perhaps what staff can do is, if there are sessions that staff want, it feels like definitely need to be covered, and for whatever reason you can't get a staff person, you could possibly coordinate with other people who are going, ask them to go listen to the presentation, gather information, give you a report back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. One thing that I would do is, you know, we want people to see what's going on in the recycling industry. So if you have people such as other home rule cities, other haulers, other interested parties, let them know. We would love to get good attendance with this thing because it only helps us in our community when it comes to recycling.
And to Bob's point, I think sometimes they have workshops that are at the same time and you have to choose. So, you know,
Yes, they do.
it may be beneficial to have more people there to hit multiple topics.
Yes. Yeah, I guess my suggestion would just be that once the agenda comes out, that we kind of flag some things that that are going to be particularly valuable for us and be focal points, and then have some people that we can kind of you know, hold to account for retaining information or presenting it at subsequent board meetings.
I think that's a good idea. The one thing I do know is that after the conference, if you are attendee, then you have access to the videos that for every session. So
That's awesome.
it's still good to have the while we want somebody to be there to maybe ask questions that may be pertinent to our community, everybody would be able to view it later.
Awesome. Okay, that's all the questions that I have.
Are there any other questions? Okay, we have a first, we have it's been moved and second is what I'm trying to say. If there are no other questions, since this is a monetary issue, you want to call a roll on this?
Yes. Bob Schindler.
Yes.
We got Andy Reynolds,
Yes.
Alex Davidson. Yeah.
Yes.
Debbie Thompson. Debbie,
Yes.
can you get your camera going? Andy Reynolds.
Yeah.
Debbie, you can't vote if your camera's not on. In fact, actually, I think our meeting's supposed to stop
Debbie Thompson.
if your camera's going off.
Debbie, can you get your camera going?
Debbie, you can't vote if your camera's not on. In fact, actually, I think meeting's supposed to stop, if you're in the launch.
Not sure what happened.
Should be at the bottom of the screen. You should have a thing that says video. Should be at the bottom of the screen. You should have a thing that says video.
Yes, and it says it's on.
If it's not there, to just
It's there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
You're back.
You're gone.
And you're gone. Whatever you did a second ago brought your video back. But then it went back away. Whatever ago brought your video back,
Okay.
but went back away.
Okay, I'm stopping touching anything.
Can we move on with the votes that we have?
there you go. There you go. Did
Can you
Hear me?
Do you want to make a vote, Abby?
She's gone again. All right, you probably want to hurry up and make your vote
Yeah,
again.
quick vote,
before-
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think it may be a bandwidth thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Debbie, if you just want to go ahead and turn off your microphone. Okay, is the echo still there? Okay, at this point, I'm not sure what we can do, whether or not that we can continue the meeting and at this point consider Deborah informational only, and unable to vote on any subsequent things unless she can keep the camera on and be able to vote at the same time. So need to really kind of be visible during the discussion.
Do we have a
Robbie,
quorum?
do you know what
without-
that? Yes, we do.
Okay. I think that we can proceed just without her as a voter or a voting member.
She's on that.
We're going to work to get this rectified somehow, but we might not be able to do it tonight. So we can move on. I believe that the motion passed.
We only got 3 votes in, I think, so far.
Well, I got Sean.
You didn't call on me yet.
Oh, Sean, sorry about the confusion.
I'm a yes on the resource recycling conference expenditures.
Okay. I believe that gives us 4.
4.
Can't see everyone on my screen, so I believe that we have, that's our quorum. Our
Yeah.
quorum has given us 4 votes in the affirmative, so the motion would pass.
Okay, thank you all on that. Second item of new business.
The new business would be a tornado report. Unfortunately, we seem to have a tornado report for each one of our meetings. We've had, so far this year, we've had 2 tornadoes, the April 2nd one, which was in Prospect. That was of limited area. It was not a countywide debris plan. The May 27th, which was by far the most expensive because we had 8 drop-off sites open for nearly 2 weeks. And, we had to do that because it was countywide. So whenever it's countywide, that is when it's the most expensive and the most difficult. We had the July 4th tornado that was an EF1. That's the most recent one, and it was in the Park Hill neighborhood. Damage was really limited to a narrow stretch over about 4 streets. It was not a very wide tornado. But the one thing here is it included alleys, which brings in a whole new aspect to trying to manage those. Much more difficult. If you can imagine, alleys are tighter, the power lines are closer, and buildings are right up next to the alleys. So clearing those alleys is much more difficult. It's a tangled mess. So that was one of the issues that we had there. We did do a curbside collection in that area, the same as what we did in the northeast Prospect area. And we did that fairly well. The residents did a great job of getting their stuff out there. We did operate one debris drop-off site, but it was only open for about 5 to 6 days. So that was not very expensive to do. So it was one of those things. One thing that we do, that we've started to do, and something that we want people to understand before an event like this takes place, is our debris removal guidelines. If there's the chance that we're going to be doing a curbside pickup, this is an illustration that we received from our vendor Ashbrit. We probably need to add some type of an alley to this illustration if we do have another one in the urban services core where we have mostly alleys. So it's a good thing, and it's just one of those things that we want to start education before we have these events, so that we're better prepared when it happens. So are there any questions about the tornado? I will say one last thing. During our assessment phase, I contacted the National Weather Service office, and I was talking to them about what is going on with all the tornadoes. And they said that they don't know. It's kind of very unusual. They wondered if they were missing them before and not categorizing them as tornadoes, but they don't think so. So Louisville's been unlucky, but also lucky that these things have been small and they have not hit at the worst possible positions, like the one in Prospect. If that would have went through the Park Hill neighborhood, the damage would have been much greater and a much more difficult thing to do.
Do you have any tonnage estimates?
I don't, not quite yet. I do for the, I don't have them readily available for the most recent one on July 4th, but I do have them for the other, the May 27th and the April 2024. April 2nd had a massive amount of debris. We had a lot of C&D in there as well, but it was much more confined. So it was easier to get up because it was more confined, but it was open enough that allowed the trucks to get to it. The May 27th one being so widespread, you can't, if you try to do a curbside pickup for a widespread tree damage storm, the cost would be astronomical. So we was lucky that we didn't have a concentrated, large countywide storm. So I can't really answer.
When you have these storms like this, or these cleanup efforts like this, is it a real commingled mess where you can't get the or you have trouble getting the tree debris separated from the what would be considered landfill debris?
We've been lucky so far. We did have a little bit of that in the Prospect area, but a lot of contractors handled that because a lot of the C&D never made it off the property, and it was part of trying to fix their house up. So they had a contractor there doing it, So not much of it made it to the curb. I believe that if we had a larger scale incident, maybe in a different part of town, we would have difficulty. And while we have a debris separation guide, we do realize that there will be times where it's just impossible to do that debris separation. However, what I would say is if we have a much bigger, wider spread event, we would be utilizing our debris management contractors, Ashbrit again, and Tetra Tech, and they would set up a very large scale debris management site that would have a lot of processing ability and possibly some sortation ability that we can recover as much of that and keep it out of the landfill as possible. So the bigger the scale, the bigger our resources as well. But yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay,
No,
thank you.
thanks for the rundown.
Next item.
Okay, so I think you guys probably know this guy up on the screen. Mr. Schindler will be, this will be his last board meeting if the appointed person is approved at tomorrow night's Metro Council meeting. So, so that we didn't lose his abilities for a month, I wanted to go ahead and get board approval to appoint Mr. Schindler to the advisory committee pending the new board member is approved. He would be a citizen environmental representative and would replace Tim Darst. Tim has done a good job. He just has conflicts with his teaching schedule, making it difficult for him to attend. So again, the council votes on this tomorrow. Bob has to rotate off because he's reached the limit of his terms. So if we could, if anybody has any questions, I would hope that the board could approve this appointment pending the new member being approved tomorrow at Metro Council.
The only question that I have is, has Mr. Darst already resigned his duties as advisory committee?
Yes, he has.
Okay, got it. That's all. I would move to approve the appointment of Mr. Schindler to the advisory committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion, questions, comments? In the past on advisory committee members, I can't remember, have we done a roll call or a voice vote?
I believe we've done voice votes.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Feel like I should vote no. Thank you all very much. It's been interesting being the chairman. This is a very interesting topic and subject that's been close to my heart for a number of years. So it's been fun.
Bob, save your speech. We're going to hopefully meet in person next month. Hopefully get you a proclamation and a thank you. And I can't tell you how much I've appreciated your time here on the board. I've learned a lot from you.
Well, thank you, Pete. Old business.
Host community agreement. Just to give you guys an update of where we're at, we have met with Tom Fitzgerald of the Kentucky Resource Council. He sent us some information last night. Not enough time to review that information. Very detailed. We need to meet with him to kind of get a better understanding of what he has given us. And hopefully by the next meeting, we can have the information to the board, be able to answer questions, and hopefully have Mr. Fitzgerald attend as well for those questions. We got some stuff to do, I believe, and we just want to be understand it all and put ourselves in a good position to get started.
I might just note that the reason Pete has been seeking the assistance of Tom Fitzgerald is that when the solid waste legislation passed originally back in the early 90s, and then Jefferson County formed the Waste Management District, Tom was involved with the very first host agreement that Jefferson County Waste Management District did with the Outer Loop landfill. So he's got a lot of history as well as being able to keep up with the changes that have occurred in solid waste legislation between the time one of these was originally done and starting to do another one now. Just a note. Next item, Pete. Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any questions from the board members?
I was just wondering, could you refresh my memory on who or what people the host agreement committee consists of?
So I believe that what we had was 4 people. We had Bob Schindler, Sarah Lynn Cunningham, Sandra Leonard. The 4th person escapes me.
It wasn't Bruce, was it?
It may have been Bruce.
Yeah, I think it was Bruce. At least for the portion reaching out to Tom and talking
Yeah.
about host agreements in general.
Let's clarify. It's Bruce Burrow or Bruce Blue, not Bruce Burrow.
Bruce, your volume was
Yeah,
very low.
Bruce Burrow said to clarify it's Bruce Blue, not Bruce Burrow.
Okay. I got you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item, Pete.
Give me our 2-month update on the Let's Keep Louisville Clean anti-litter and campaign that we're running. I'm going to let Karen kind of run through this, and I will move slides as needed.
Alrighty, so this we've already brought to you all before we launched it, but just kind of a recap that this is our campaign that's running right now about it's our anti-litter campaign. Let's keep Louisville clean together, with the idea of there being a relationship between the collection and the done with residents, and kind of seeing the faces some of the faces that actually do the work. And there's billboards, and well, I think the next slide might show a little bit more about what's out there. So it's billboards, there's some bus shelters, and streaming audio, there's a video, and then these the ad campaigns for Facebook and through the internet, where it's kind of like sponsored ads that come up. So those are just some screenshots that show what it might look like. I don't know if anyone has seen any of those out and about, any of the billboards or anything while you're out, or if any of those things, if you use social media or if you're on the internet a lot, you might have some things come up that are hopefully, I mean, you all on this call probably aren't who we need to be talking to exactly as far as litter goes, but that'd be okay if they came up into your feed.
The social media does have a little bit more of a focus on the, I think, 18 to 34 age group, because they're 3 times more likely to litter than anybody else. I don't think that we have anybody in that category. So it wouldn't surprise me if we haven't seen it. I have seen some of it on social media, but I've also seen quite a few of the billboards. They look good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an awareness campaign. So there is a web page, clean.louisvilleky.gov is how you get to the landing page for, it's written on the billboards. It's, if you click on a link that comes up into your, onto your screen, then that is what you're going to see which I think we can go to in a second. But the chart that Pete has shows our metrics so far, and they are all looking good. I am not the expert on this, but we had our Michelle, our contact through Field Trip, kind of running through all of the benchmarks and everything, and we're either, I think most of them were actually above the benchmark. The high impact display is in the middle of the benchmark as far as what they say you are kind of striving for. The streaming, you can kind of see there's a 15-second streaming audio, there's 15-second online video and a non-skip YouTube video. So it's showing kind of like the rate, the completion rate is there, which is always good if someone watches the whole video, right? So anyway, we're seeing good results as far as the impressions and all of this engagement that can be measured that way. So we're pleased with that. It's not over yet. It's coming to an end soon, though. This was a 90-day campaign, May, June, July, basically. Of course, if there's any billboards out there, they won't get replaced until someone else buys it. So occasionally we get a little bit longer on some of those things.
That click-through rate, does that reflect people that see it and then want
Well, they
more
actually
information?
clicked on it because people see it. So the impressions is more like it came to the screen, and then when people click all the way onto the page. So I believe that percentage is like the number of clicks divided by the impressions, I think.
It is.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Sean. I know you're more of an expert on these numbers.
Yeah. So like in email marketing, it would be the equivalent to the clicks divided by the email opens. So basically it's a fifth to a quarter of 1% of the people who see it click. So I don't know what, how the click-through rate is decided, and for this type of campaign, what's considered impactful. One question that I have is regarding the billboards, creative assets, just geographically. Do we have a general map or something like that of where these are being deployed? Because I have not. I mean, when I see them here, I think they look great, and when I've sought those out, like on the website, I think they look great, but I haven't come across any of them.
There is a map, although I'm not sure that it was totally updated because at a certain point it was trying to get some of these billboards that was difficult to do, and particularly in an area that would love, you're competing for that space. So there is one. I don't have it readily available. I will say that it probably favored the south and west to a certain degree. Of course, those billboards are probably going to be more available. What we did, I believe, to account for some of that is tried to run more of the social media and streaming audio and stuff heavier in the other parts of the city that didn't have as much coverage. I'm not sure where that ended up. It's hard for us to kind of imagine. I think the people that, on our last time here, I would hope that we can have someone from Field Trip to come to better be able to answer your questions as to how this was done.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I always have questions on this stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Next time, we would love to have you on the committee, the creation of these.
Yeah, I'd love that. And that being said, I know that at least previously we did have an education subcommittee, and it sounded like there were some really good, like productive things that came out of that. Is there any discussion or thought about starting that back up? I know sometimes there's like an attendance issue with subcommittees.
Yeah, as far as the advisory committee had been divided into two subcommittees, and then we at the beginning of this year we just decided to meet as a full committee monthly, and then not have the subcommittees. I think mostly because the contracts one didn't really have more work. So a lot of what the full advisory committee is doing is the education work. It's just not divided down. But as we see a need to maybe have a smaller group that wants to work on that a little bit honed in more, I'm fine with that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I will
Are there
say
any other
that,
questions?
Karen, if from my memory, I believe that these statistics are better than the last campaign, because I don't believe that we was above benchmark in anything. We hit benchmarks, but I don't believe that we were above. So
Yeah,
I believe that this has been a more successful campaign than the last one. I can show the clean Louisville landing page if you guys want me to. I would like to, or
Go ahead.
see if I can. If it will allow me to. Sometimes it doesn't want to go from. Okay. So this is the landing page. Comes in and it's not a big page. It's fairly simple, but to the point. So, you know, it's not magic. It's our job and yours because we need the community to do their part to make solid waste work. So we have the video, which is the longer one, and which is great. If they've come here, they're willing to listen to a little bit longer pitch, I believe. And then we get into how you can help keep Louisville clean. And it's Be Cart Smart and some of the things. And it takes you to another web page like what can I recycle, pop up. And it gives a lot of information. And it also gives information to all the other individual haulers that are out there. So carts, we feel like is a big driver of litter. If somebody doesn't have a cart or somebody is consistently overfilling their cart or their cart is damaged, that's a huge contributor to litter. Also, we did the same thing with the large items, you know, contacting your waste hauler to find out what they offer. Could be the same with a home rule city. The one thing that we don't have that's a little bit more difficult is information on each home rule city. If you was, and I think that Karen, if a home rule city wanted to put their information in these in the future, we could certainly make that link if they have a solid waste page as part of their home rule city. And that's pretty much it. You know, if you see it, pick it up, and we'll be all a whole lot better for it. So that's our landing page. You know, simple.
Do we have any information about how many people click again? Like once they get to this landing page, how many people are clicking on those other links or going on and downloading the Recycle Coach app?
we will. Because, and that's one reason we wanted a landing page that we have access to like Google Analytics and stuff. So I don't have all of that yet, but I think that'll all be part of the end report, and I'll definitely ask Field Trip to come to do that.
Okay, any questions or anything in regards to that program?
Okay, thanks, Karen, Pete. Next item.
Capture rate study RFP. If you guys, some of you may not have even been a board member when this was first initiated. It's taken us so long. So the RFP has been out. We received 2 bidders. One bidder met the criteria and the other one didn't. The one that did had extensive experience in conducting the capture rate studies across the country, but the price was exceedingly high. So much so that we wanted to drop back and reevaluate. And I met with them and see if they was willing to negotiate, and they are. So the price has come down probably 75%. So, but as with trying to get them to come down on price, also brought our responsibilities up. So this is what they proposed the last time and what they would do versus what we would do as far as Metro Division of Solid Waste. We would work to get these things. Some of these promises or things Metro Services can't necessarily do. So we needed some help of home rule cities and of private haulers. So we've started that discussion. And in general, the committee felt like that this was still worth moving forward. And we will again meet with the one bidder to negotiate exactly what this responsibilities are going to look like and how we can make this work. I still think that this is within reach. It's still a little bit pricey, but I believe that in the end, we will get our capture rate study. I believe that it will give us some very good statistics, and it will give us statistics that will help education know what to focus on in 3 individual areas, which is one is in the USD towards the west, one is in a home rule city, and one is in an unincorporated subscription area. So each one is going to have some different challenges to what we do. And I think that we're going to get some good information. So we're still working on this one. I just wanted to give you guys an update because it's been a long time since we made this, put this RFP out. Any questions on the capture rate study? Okay. Cost of services study. This is one that's been most recent. We did let the RFP. We had a good pre-bid meeting. I believe that there were 4 to 5 potential bidders in that meeting. We had, after it was done, we ended up with 2 very good proposals is what we feel like. The evaluations were initially scored and the evaluations came close for each one. So we're currently, well, we have conducted interviews with each of the bidders and we have a better understanding of their proposal. We're going to go back and rescore again and see where we're at. And hopefully we will have an awardable process within the next 3 to 4 weeks. I do know that once we get this cost of services study going, it's gonna take a lot of work and it will be months to complete. I believe one of the proposals actually was to take almost 9 months to complete from all the data and stuff that has to be done. And you know, we want to ensure everyone that the one thing that we really wanted out of this thing was objective information. We don't want subjective that could be a problem. And we also wanted to ensure that we have a trustworthy and transparent process so that everybody can trust the facts that come from this study. If there's any questions or any comments that any of the committee members, Bruce Burrow or Karen, I don't know if Sumeda is here. If you guys want to add anything to my comments, but feel free to. And otherwise, I'll take some questions if there are.
Was there any reason given about the length of time? I mean, 9 months. You know, I'm not an expert at this kind of stuff, but 9 months sounds like a pretty extensive span of time to complete a study. Now, I'd probably be concerned if it was a very short span of time, maybe more concerned. So was there a rationale given for that? And then I think initially in the initial RFP, there was the scoring criteria was given. And then lastly, for approval of or final decision for the bidder, is that a board decision or is that decision made by somebody else?
If the board wants to have that final authority on it, it would be a little bit difficult because, they wasn't involved in the interviews. They typically in this process, as we go through this, it will go back to the full advisory committee, and that advisory committee would make a recommendation. That would be our typical process. In this instance, for the board to make that approval, we would have to give a lot of information publicly, I believe, which I'm not real sure if that makes an issue. Let me find out more information as far as what would be the appropriate process for that. And, as far as the 9 months go, I'm not certain, but I believe that is correct. I do know that the upfront on this is significant data collection. There is GIS work, meaning that there has to be layer files and stuff like that that's sent to the person. They have to, once they start to, before they can gather information, you have to make sure that you're geolocating where you're getting your data. You have to create the survey tool before it goes out, and then you have to collect that data and create the report. So there is a lot that takes place. I do believe that 9 months is a little long, and potentially this could be a little bit shorter process. The other one, I can't remember, but I believe that it was closer to that 3 to 4 month process. But I can't say for sure.
Okay. And then I'm sorry, I do have one other question. So I know, so part of this is trying to better understand the cost burden by individuals and groups, HOAs, different things like that. And I guess first part of that is, how are we going to get that information? Because I think I think part of the discussion previously was that a lot of haulers are probably going to be kind of reluctant to provide that information for competitive reasons. And then, what level of concern is there that, if long-term we push forward with contracting, what level of concern is there that it's going to reduce the amount of competition in the Louisville metro market and push some of the smaller waste haulers out?
I believe that the last part first. The goal here is to get the facts and then let those facts lead us to where we need to go and have that discussion. I believe that those are all legitimate questions that need to be answered, but I'm not sure that we're at that point of needing to answer those quite yet. Before we can move forward, there would be a robust discussion about that process. As far as the data collection, remember that the goal here is to look at the subscription area as compared to contracted areas. So that means that you're going to have some participation from contracted areas and the USD to look at their cost. Probably a whole lot easier to do if it's contract based, and if those contracts are held by a home rule city or it's in the metro government accounting system, it's a whole lot easier to get than trying to get individual subscription rates from private haulers. And, you know, it's legitimate that they would be concerned about giving up some information. So most of the data collection that would come from that unincorporated area would be through various methods, including phone calls, and ensuring that they hit the different zip codes, and having a discussion, so that survey tool would definitely include ensuring that the questions that are going to be asked are going to be legit. The committee will be a part of that process to ensure that transparency. So I think that, you know, whenever a company is bidding on something like this, one of the hardest things to convey to them is how complicated the solid waste collection system is in Jefferson County. You know, many of the vendors that we've had in the past always comment that it's one of the most complicated systems that they've run across. And that part of that is just due to the fact of the nature of our community and the way it's made up. We've got 82 home rule cities. We've got 2 municipalities that do their own collection, and then we have subscription areas and HOAs. So to try to put together something that can measure not only the cost, but the level of service when it is so wide a variety is a challenge. So it's going to take us a minute, and we have assuredly made sure that both bidders understand what they're getting into. And even at that, you still wonder. So once they do get in the door, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of different discovery, and maybe that extends that process. I'm not afraid of having a longer process if it means a better process.
Sure.
2 things, Pete. One, in the past, we have had a county attorney's opinion that information gathered from private haulers, such as pricing, is an item that we can hold as a confidential business interest, and when they give certain individual pricing schemes that they follow and stuff, that we can hold that as a confidential business information, and we don't have to release that. You might want to just double check and see if that opinion still holds. I don't know of anything that would have changed in the legal setup in Kentucky that have an effect on that, but you might just double check on that, because that should be an assurance that we're not going to collect something and then we're going to broadcast it so that everybody gets to see everybody else's competitive business.
So we did discuss confidentiality with the bidders, and to ensure that any of that information that would be considered confidential business information would not be disclosed. And you know, they both assured us that they can do so. I did see I went back and looked at a study that was conducted many years ago, and probably the one that you're speaking of. And I did find those confidentiality statements. And I don't believe it's any problem for us to make sure that those things are updated and that we do protect that confidential business information. I believe that that's important and imperative to be part of that process.
And the other comment I might make is contracting like this for unincorporated areas by a municipal function, such as the Waste Management District, has been done in many locations across the country for many years. And it's been a while since I've looked at some of that stuff, but there are ways to structure the bidding process so that you do not eliminate small contractors, that you somehow weight the system to give small contractors an equal shot at getting the business. You try to avoid putting all your eggs in one basket and throwing everybody else out of business. There are ways that other municipalities have approached this where they're able to make sure that everybody gets a share of the business, because ultimately that serves the municipality. They don't have all their eggs in one basket. And if something goes haywire, you're not stuck because all of a sudden you've lost your contract and you don't have anything else to do. So before they would ever move in a direction like that, there would have to be a lot of work put into the actual bidding process. Any other questions or comments on either of these studies? Okay.
So, sorry, just
Yeah.
very
ahead.
quickly. Pete, I know you mentioned some of this, but you said the plan is to report back to the advisory committee with the information about the bidders, for both RFPs, just to get like a final decision from the advisory committee. Is that the next step, or maybe not the next step, but that's the next discussion around it?
Yeah, I did say that. I feel like that I need to go back in. What concerns me about doing something like that is ensuring that the procurement rules are not broken. So I don't know the procurement rules well enough to be able to say what I can do. So I'm going to have to
Okay.
get back with our procurement department to see what I can do. We have an evaluation committee that we structured this with, and those are supposed to be the people that evaluate and make the decision. So I got to see how I can bring input into that process.
Sure. I mean, how difficult or how disruptive would it be in the future to have someone from the advisory committee on that evaluation committee?
There was.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
We had Bruce Burrow was on there, and we also had Sumeda Rao from the Sustainability Office, who's on the advisory committee, but also represents the metro government on that advisory committee.
Okay, so not difficult at all is the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for not realizing that.
I felt like early on that we needed to have that transparency to make the process legitimate. Bruce Burrow, I believe, is probably he's a stand-up guy and trustworthy, and he's fair, and I believe that he was a great choice to have there. And his input is thoroughly needed and welcome.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Yeah, I would second that. Bruce has a very good reputation in the business community out there.
Thank
Yes.
you for those kind of words.
If there
I
are no
love
other,
Bruce turning the video on just to bask in the compliments. The first time we've seen him all meeting.
if there's no other questions, advisory committee reports. You're on screen. You want to go ahead, Bruce?
I believe that the advisory committee has been focused primarily on these, well, from my perspective, on these two studies. But I'm going to Karen to proceed with her presentation on the advisory committee. She's been doing a great job kind of leading us down the path. So Karen, it's up to you.
Okay. So I basically gave an education update at the last meeting. The 5-year plan, of course, is like our guide on things that we're doing. And so I wanted to kind of lay out all the education related actions. And I put them into 4 different categories: outreach and technical assistance, standardized messaging and marketing, illegal dumping prevention, and litter prevention, which really those last 2 could kind of go together as well. So the ones about outreach and technical assistance, there's 2 that fall under the collection system. If you read the plan, it's divided into sections. And then there's 1 that's under recycling and reduction. They're kind of similar. It has to do with outreach programs and technical assistance programs. I'm really excited to very soon have a second full-time public education coordinator. And one of the big goals here is to put these guides and toolkits, like actually create and implement them with having a third full-time education person. So that'll be great. And the next section is about standardized messaging and marketing. There's a couple times kind of mentioning about that standardized messaging. We did a lot of meetings about trying to get the haulers and the MRFs where our residential material might go for everything to be consistent. And so we've been working on some ways to create some materials. I was trying to get the haulers all together so that we can kind of understand how their messaging goes, so the district can maybe utilize through the haulers to get some of the same message out. So it's a little hard to get everybody together, but we're still working on that. And what's the next one? Okay, so as far as that goes, when we're talking about that message, standardized messaging and any marketing campaigns that we might do, there's several audiences. So there's new recyclers. We would love to create something that all new recyclers get where it's the same. So if someone starts recycling, gets a new container, there could be a flyer or info card of some sort attached to the cart. And this is our most recent info card. It was created in partnership with the Recycling Partnership when we did our grant with them. But I kind of modified it, just a mock-up to show that if all of the haulers logos were on this card and that same card were attached to anyone's cart, it would help bring the message to residents, you know, that we're all recycling together and we're all doing this together. And you don't really have to be too confused about what's accepted because you don't know, you know, because well, your stuff by someone else. So the one thing we can all agree on is what items should be left out of the carts. That's not in question at all, but there has been a couple things in question on what's acceptable. So we still just want to make sure we have that exactly right for Rumpke, because they you know, take some of that residential recycling to their MRF in Cincinnati, and Smurf at West Rock, which gets a large portion of our most of the other portion of the residential recycling. The other audience here is current recyclers, and the one program we are currently doing is the Recycle Right Oops Tag program. There can be other ways. We would love to look at other ways to educate recyclers, but we have the Oops Tag program that we can easily do in the Urban Services District. We've been doing it in other parts of the county through Rumpke and WM. We just are hoping to get more routes from them. Usually it worked. So far, we've obviously contracted routes are easier because we can know exactly a boundary to go to. We can talk to HOA presidents and mayors of small cities to make sure okay with us doing the program, aware of it happening. But so far, we've done a few routes in some areas under both of those haulers. So we just want to keep expanding that program. We haven't done a whole lot with commercial customers here, but that is, you know, things that we would like to do. We kind of started some work on family, but we want to continue that. And I'm hoping with that adding our other full-time staff person in education that we'll be able to do more with that. And then I've very recently kind of gotten an idea for non-recyclers. So I have nothing to show for it except to share that I would love to create something like a quick start guide for someone who isn't recycling. And it would have to be a little bit different based on location, because in the Urban Services District, obviously a quick start guide, you know, has to do with how to first get your cart. And if you're outside of the if that district and maybe have, living in a small city that, you know, maybe that has a contract for recycling, but it's optional. So, that the idea is to make something that would be specific to who we're giving that to. But like I said, that's just a brand new idea. And, so I'll keep working on that one.
Karen, could I add just a little bit on this?
Yes.
The work that's been done by the Education Committee and by the full committee has been excellent in my mind. And there's been a lot of material that has been discussed in lots of ways to bring that consistent messaging about. And we're this close. And I believe that we will get over that hump. And I think that we have the material now. It's just getting the mechanism to get it out there. So this is going to be an area that, of course, Karen getting her extra education person will help. This is going to be an area I hope that we're going to be able to act on fairly soon. We just need to finalize all the smaller details. And I loved the idea when Karen brought it to me today about the non-recyclers and that quick start guide, because quick start guide's the first thing I look at in a box that I would get when I need to put something together or I get a new computer. So it takes away the daunting look at a big form to try to do something. If it's a quick start guide, it's easy and it's baby steps, and we can hopefully get new recyclers that way. So, you know, great job to the education team on that, and hopefully we can continue to work that way. Go ahead, Karen. Or is this me?
Well, there's just a couple more sections, which would be the illegal dumping prevention, or I'm sorry, illegal dumping is a theme in the 5-year plan, and litter prevention. So these are just those specific actions for both topics. So again, I was kind of trying to align everything and think about, you know, methodically how I can tackle each of these. So we are, of course, always working on illegal dumping education and outreach. And then the litter prevention, I put field trip there in parentheses because that is kind of that outreach campaign that's going on. And we hope to keep going with an outreach campaign each year. Of course, it doesn't have to always be litter. We can move on. We've already done some preliminary work for doing some recycling education as well. And then Literati is a really neat organization. You know, I think Pete has said he has reached out. I have reached out recently, and I haven't gotten anything back. But if you look at their website and look at a few cities that have partnered with them, it's kind of using data to tackle litter as an issue, and it kind of helps figure out where it comes from, and you can take action. So anyway, it is in our 5-year plan, and hopefully someday we'll be able to connect with them.
Yeah, I would say that the campaign that we're running right now, you know, working together to connect people with their services helps both litter and illegal dumping because, you know, we have a great collection system in Jefferson County. Regardless of where you're at, you have the opportunity to be able to dispose of your stuff the correct way. We just have to get people to use it right. So that's a challenge sometimes. But I believe that these campaigns that we're doing kind of helps bridge that gap. So I think I really do like our campaign. And I do believe that that's the end of the presentation for tonight.
Do you want to go through, or do you have a staff report?
No, we do not.
Okay. You want to go through the announcements?
Yeah, just the announcements are that the Resource Recycling Conference is coming up in November. I just want to keep people aware of that. And again, if you're interested in attending, please let us know. Next 109 board meeting is going to be June 26th. That cannot be right.
No, I actually
Gonna
changed
take
that
a year off.
on my copy for the website.
Okay,
August 28th,
thank you. And the advisory committee meeting would be
August
when?
21st.
Okay, so thank you for picking me up on that one. I totally missed that.
At this point in time, are there any additional questions or comments from the general public?
When do we need to have our interest in that conference into you? I mean, you'll have mine right away, but Corinne commented that early bird registration closes August 15th.
Good point.
I don't know. I don't know what the final deadline is. Obviously, if we can get that early bird, that would be great. So please let us know soon. But I know that that's not the end of it. So I don't have an ending date on when you can sign up. I would assume that you can sign up almost up to the day of the event, but I can't be for certain.
Okay. I was just thinking if let's say 10 people decide to commit after that date, then that would represent kind of an unnecessary price difference of $500 or an unnecessary cost difference of $500. So just so that we're kind of keeping each other accountable, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point and something that we can, because that deadline is before our next advisory committee meeting. But we can send out some reminder emails to say, hey, if you're going to do this, please do it now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from anybody? Okay, again, thank you all very much. Thank you, board members, for your participation. And I guess we'll see everybody next month. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Debbie, we'll be in touch to see if we can't work out some of the issues.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.